Ow.
Hi.
Hello, friend.
Hello, friend.
How are you, friend?
I am here. How are you,
You
friend?
you are here. I'm here. We're all here.
Uchikoshi's here.
Uchikoshi's here. He's gonna give us the thumbs up.
Yay. If that's not, well, I guess I was gonna say if that's not the image this week, then I'm sad, but like I guess that's technically from the first one.
Yeah.
Dang.
Oh man. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode number 289.
Hmm.
And we are going to be discussing the new the Somnium Files game, the Somnium Files nirvanA Initiative. It's a mouthful.
It is. I do appreciate though that they made the last A in nirvanA and the I capitalized so it does I again.
It took me a second to figure that out because I was like, why did they style it like that? Then I was like, oh.
Hey.
Nahone.
Nahone!
So yeah, we're going to talk about the latest the Somnium Files game where the initiative is to get everyone into the band nirvanA.
Yep. It's true.
So we can all smell like Team Spirit and Come As You Are and all those hits.
Heart-shaped box.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we talked about the first the Somnium Files?
Oh, you should have asked me that earlier.
I just now thought about it.
Blah. I can look it up real quick.
Okay.
Hopefully.
We are going to talk about the sequel that came out in June.
June. No results found. Go eat a butt. Found it.
Yay!
We talked about this game on October 5th, 2019 as part of episode number 147, where I also gave first impressions of a game called Love Live School Idol Festival All-Stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a whole different universe.
It sure was. That's no joke.
Wowzers.
So yeah, it's been quite a bit since the last the Somnium Files game.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 2019. This is now 2022. When this game came out, like you said, it came out in June, on the 23rd and 24th of June in 2022 for Japan and North America, and it's coming out in European regions on July the 8th. So by the time you hear this, it will have just come out over there.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a delay on that, unfortunately, but yeah, this is the new the Somnium Files game. Continuing off basically from the events of the first one.
Yeah.
Somewhat. There is stuff.
It also had like a stealth. Sorry, I was gonna say it had a stealth announcement. It just kind of like came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Like I say, like there's some things that are referenced from the first game in here, but that's mostly if you you actually like opt into
spoiler mode,
having that stuff like talked about essentially because they're like, hey, if you played the first game, give us the answers to this so we know for sure, and if not, like, hey, it's no big deal. Like you can still play this game regardless.
We should have known we were getting into something crazy when it went meta on us immediately, where it's like, hey, do you know anything about the original killings? Not you, Ryuki. Do you know anything about this case?
You.
If you do, answer these questions. I was like, oh god, I don't know the answer to these questions.
Yeah, I had to look those up real quick.
Mm-hmm. But like right out the gate, just talking directly to us.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well then there we go. But there is a spoiler mode. But again, like very light spoilers even in spoiler mode.
Yeah, it's not like it's just like very blatant about everything. It's kind of just like, here's some just a little bit more info expanded upon and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this game centers around two new protagonists.
Newish.
As protagonists for these games.
Okay, yes. Fair.
As Date's kind of not around for a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to play as newcomer Ryuki, who is another agent of Abyss. And also you get to play as Mizuki.
His data.
his new adopted dada, who is now older because she has scenes from 6 years in the future.
Zura.
So
Yeah, so she's what, 12 and 18 in this game?
Something like that. So you get to see like different points of view and everything, and see how both of these different characters, work within the system of the game, and how they come to grips with this case they're both working on at not at different times, let's say.
Yeah.
And like how all of that kind of eventually comes together to form the mystery and the eventual solving of the mystery and all that sort of stuff. And of course, it's an Ujikoshi game, so it's going to be all sorts of all over the place and just wild and take you places that you're not necessarily expecting.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yes.
Gameplay wise, this is essentially the same as the first game. There are a few like new things that are added, like the virtual reality things where you can kind of piece together a crime scene and kind of get an idea of like how things happen there. Like that's a new addition, but it also kind of plays out in the same way that like the Somniums play out, in terms of like you're just walking around and like picking up clues and then piecing them all together and all that sort of stuff.
I think the Somniums worked a bit better in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we eventually in one of the Somniums get like Ace Attorney-ish, where we have to like present evidence to counter what they're saying or thinking.
Yeah.
Just an interesting dynamic. Mechanic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Dynamic mechanic.
There we go. Thank you for saving it.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to let me see if there's anything else gameplay wise that is new-ish.
I'm trying to think of like what all we could talk about that's not spoiler-ish. Before we just go full on like we're spoiling things.
Yeah. There is a thing where you can wink sync with people, which is like a miniature form of syncing that you get like a little 6-second peek into their brain, but it's very limited in terms of what you can see. It's basically like you can see like the person in there and maybe someone else you've interacted with, but if it's like someone you don't know they're talking to, like you won't be able to tell who that is or anything like that. Like it's not as deep and thorough as like the actual syncing are. And also like in canon, there's supposed to be like a time limit on how much you can use it.
You're only supposed to be able to use it once a day, technically.
But you could basically kind of use it whenever you want, essentially.
Yeah, as long as you move to a new location, you can use it once in each new location.
Yeah.
But they make it so that like if there are two characters in the same location, like you can't wink sync both of them. You have to choose which one you're gonna go for.
Right.
But yeah, technically, canonically, you can only use it once per day, but
I was gonna say something else and now I just completely blanked. A lot of the areas and stuff is basically the same from the last game as well. I think there's like maybe a couple of new areas in there throughout, but like is a lot of the same places you've gone in the first game. There's a lot of characters from the first game that re-show up as well, along with some new characters as well.
And like one of them was a background character in the first one. It became a major character in this one. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because Amame was just mermaid in the last one, and she was the one that had the nice skeleton, remember? And now she's actually like a character that is friends with Mizuki and Iris and Gin.
And there's also a whole wealth of like, new characters that show up in this game as well, so you'll get to meet a whole bunch of new folks that have to interact with and get to know and see if they're shady or not, or what exactly is going on with them.
Including Ryuki, who is the second half of the protagonist line. Like he's new. We have to get to know him, figure out what he's about. That boy ain't all right.
That boy right.
There you go. That's really all I can say without spoiling things so far.
Yeah. He also has an eyeball partner like Date had with Aiba. He has Tama, who is a very different kind of character than Aiba, let's say. Both in terms of personality and appearance.
I do want to tell you, I don't know if you saw this trivia bit, but Tama was not designed by Pewter.
Mm-hmm.
Iba was. And they're like, yeah, a certain somebody helped design Tama. I'm like, I wonder who that could have been based on people who work at Abyss and who could have made a character that looks like that and talks like that and thinks like that.
It's a great mystery.
Hmm.
No clue who could have been.
No clue. No clue. No whatsoever.
Very
Thanks,
extreme
Date.
mystery. But yeah, that's kind of like the new stuff in terms of like gameplay, characters, all that sort of stuff. It's like, it's a completely new mystery and everything. So you get all that sort of fun stuff. And I think that's kind of it in terms of what we can say without going into like story stuff and spoilers and all that fun jazz.
I can go skin deep on this until later, but like we get a new bop as well.
Yes.
Because last game we had Invincible something rainbow. What was the middle word? Do you remember?
No.
I don't either. Hold on. I got this. I got this. I got this. I can fix this.
Al's got this.
I can fix this. I can fix it.
But yeah, like you were saying,
Invincible Rainbow Arrow.
Yes, there was dance numbers in the first game. There were also dance numbers in this game as well because that's just what you're gonna get with these games.
Yep.
You're getting the song, you're getting the dance, you're getting the whole kit and caboodle.
Multiple times, and it's fantastic.
Yes.
Half to Whole is a jam. Every time I came on, I was like, heck yeah, let's go.
Let's go eat donuts in the bathroom.
Let's go eat donuts in the bathroom. I was like, you know what? I'd do that. I would do that if I had donuts and the only place to eat them was the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love that song, and I'm real glad that trend continues. That we get like a like fun little pop song that we get dance numbers to, and I'm still salty about the reviews that I saw. They're like, there are too many dance numbers. I'm like, there are too many of you that exist in this world. Get out of here. We need more dance numbers in life and less of this negativity coming from you. Yep.
Tell me how you really feel.
Anyway, you want to go into spoilers? that one particular person is going to listen to this somehow. They're going to know that it exists, and they're going to be like, wow, I'm really hurt by her. Oh. Good.
Oh, man. But yeah, let's dive into some spoilers real quick. Not real quick. That's going to be the most of this episode. Let's be real.
Yeah. So if you have not played it, if you want to play it, this should be your point to skedaddle.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to get big things spoiled for you. But
Big
if you
spoiler.
are okay with spoilers, then like continue listening. This is the place for you.
Yes, indeed. So essentially, this game is made up around this set of killings, which are calling like the half-body killings, because halves of bodies are just showing up places, and they're like, "How is this happening?"
There's like no blood around them, so like they know that they're being transported there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes they're altered. Like the first one has like an explosive built into the body instead of organs.
Giant sign sticking out of them.
Yeah. Some of them just have like the organs like scooped out so that they can become like a suction cup and stick to things.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of different ways that this half body shenanigans works.
Yeah, so that essentially becomes like the crux of the whole game, trying to figure out like who's doing these, why are these specific people being targeted and everything, and later on just figuring out like how are these bodies ending up in like different places and also seemingly years apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems very shady.
Yeah, but also have like the same time of death, and they're fine. Everything's good with them. There's no No issues other than the fact that they're dead
Right.
and in half.
Which becomes a quite the conundrum
Yes,
that
a
you
little
don't
bit,
figure
yeah.
out until the game's just like, "Oh, here's exactly what's really happening,"
And
and
you're
then
like,
you're like,
what?
"Oh, gotcha."
I really want to replay it at this point and do it in, I guess, sort of spoiling this. Do it in the proper order.
Right.
I really want to do that at this point since like I have the flowchart unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do that if I wanted to. I wonder what it would look like in that case.
I bet there'd be more like little things you would pick up upon.
Probably yes.
Because obviously, I think like there's going to be some stuff that like they have to like intentionally hide
Mm-hmm.
the fact that things are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
But playing it in the proper way or the proper order, I should say, you're probably going to be able to be like, oh, okay, this is why this, and this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and not why this, and this is happening.
Right.
Which I guess like so just to not skirt around it because obviously we were talking about this in the full breadth of this. There's a point in time where you get far enough along where you've done like all of Ryuki's side of the flow chart and everything,
Yep.
and you're making your way through Mizuki's side of the flow chart and just trying to figure out what's going on, piecing everything together, and eventually you come to a point where like you were essentially told like, hey, the flow chart you've been following isn't correct.
Yep.
It doesn't tell. That's not the story that's being told, and then you eventually see how they basically the flow charts intersect with each other, and you've
Mm-hmm.
been bouncing back and forth between like the 6 years ago timeline, which was originally supposed to be just Ryuki stuff, was just
Yep.
all 6 years ago, and then the future stuff was all Mizuki. But essentially, you've been bouncing back and forth between all of those,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how the story has really been going on, which I thought was a very interesting way to do that because usually with these kinds of games like the flowchart is very rigid, like you don't mess with it. It's basically it is the the point of like how you understand the story and everything,
That's
how
how you keep track of things.
how you keep track of everything, correct. And they don't really get messed with like to this extent. Essentially it's just like, here's the flowchart, it's going to be that way, it is locked in, you don't have to worry about that, you're just going to be able to go back and forth and pick where you need to go and everything, and you won't have to worry about it because you'll be fine. You'll know exactly where you're supposed to go on the flowchart, and all of that will make sense. Whereas this game is just like, we know you have these preconceived notions about like what a flowchart in these kinds of games does and everything, so let's with you in terms of how these work and everything.
Uchikoshi gonna Uchikoshi.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
I mean, he knows the importance of a flowchart. He's used it pretty extensively
Mm-hmm.
in many of his like recent-ish games, I
Yeah.
guess. Past
Like all the
20
Zero
years.
Escape games have it. The second Eye, the Somnium files, or the first Eye has it as well, and
Yep.
of course this game has it too.
Yeah. And so he's just like, what if I take that thing that people rely on to keep track of things and I just mess with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, as soon as I saw it happen, I was like, Uchikoshi, Uchikoshi, you little butthead, what are you doing? I love you to
Yep.
pieces.
It's real good, but also once you see it happen, you kind of everything starts to make sense of like, oh, this is why this, and this is happening. Like why these bodies were supposedly coming, 6 years later. It's like, oh, because that wasn't the case. They were happening within the same time period.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just like, oh, it showed up one day 6 years ago and now it's showing up again 6 years later. No, that was the same time period. It was the same day essentially.
Yep.
So none of that was really weird per se. It's just your perspective of it was weird. Was altered, let's say.
Right, right.
It was a simulation.
Gonna read Moksha.
Yes. Do the hand signal.
A lot.
Yep.
I love that one part when you're talking to Tokiko in her office, and unless you like view the symbol behind her, the only thing you can pick with her is like show me the hand signal.
Hey,
Yes,
let me see that again. Let me see
I,
that again.
I just had her like repeatedly doing it, and I was like,
Yeah,
she's like throwing signs at me here. It's great.
it's very good. Yeah, I thought that whole arc also was like an interesting thing to utilize of just like here's this cult that believes that the entire world is a simulation, it's fake, and you can basically find places where like the simulation's messing up, and those are like places you can see the seams of it and all that sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like how they kind of play into that throughout most of the game as well, with like the stuff with Ryuki and how like he's obviously going through some issues, let's say,
That's a
and
good way to put it.
yeah. And how they basically try to like really play it up of like, hey, maybe this is a thing that's happening. You never know.
You never know.
Question mark. But yeah, they're also like a group that believes in like their whole symbol is like deals with like the number 9 and everything. Like their name deals with the number 9. It's very much as like as soon as I heard that, I was like, I've heard of this before. I know this number.
I know this number. There's also the percent people.
Which they really don't get into a whole lot.
They do not.
Which I thought was odd.
Yeah.
Like they're like a sub cult of this cult that is like just like a different. They're like they have the same. They have like a different angle. They have the same like ideas and ideologies, but it's very like different. Where like they want to live here where the other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like they kind of just like don't really go into them that much because like I guess in all they really aren't meaningful outside of like the main bad guy has like the scar on his face that they think is like the symbol and everything, but other than that, like they're just kind of like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really get a whole lot of attention. But that's okay.
You already got enough bad guys coming at you by the end of this as is, so
There's so many bad guys.
yeah,
So many.
Quite a few interesting Somnium so you have to go through throughout this game. Man, the Pokemon Go one is real wild.
So funny.
Just man.
You got to go to the Pokestops and get some Pokemon.
Yeah.
I forget what she actually calls them, but you're basically collecting like characters from the games as your Pokemans.
Yeah. Or you can like go find little plants and those are eggs. You have to walk around and wait for the eggs to hatch like you do in Pokemon Go.
Kusimon.
Yeah.
You can get F.
Press F to doubt. Not press F to doubt, press F to pay respect, excuse me.
Pay respects, yeah, because as soon as you use F, everybody dies immediately.
It's true.
Yep.
But it's also very easy to get F if you have Date.
Yes.
You just show him the treasure and it's like, okay, I'm dead.
Yep.
I will join.
Yep.
And then you just blast everyone.
Blast them. It's great.
Pew, 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 pew.
Make somebody pull out their one wing.
Yeah. God, I was not expecting that.
I was also not expecting that.
Just get to the final boss and it's like, oh, here's the true final boss. And it's a one-winged character.
Yep.
Which also ties into the actual reason why that character would have that, but also it's like, haha, goofy Final Fantasy VII reference.
Yep. And in retrospect, the Doctor Somnium makes so much sense. Because it's like, oh, hey, this is an interesting Somnium. Like, I'm having to take different pieces of people and piece them together and make a perfect person.
Yep.
To do this role.
Yep.
Welp.
Who
How
could have seen
about
that
that?
coming?
How about that?
Yeah. The quiz show one is real wild.
Yeah, that one is intense. I legitimately didn't realize that the other person could get an item before you.
Yeah, I guess I was just slow. Soul in the Draw. But then like that one ends with like an Evangelion parody.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is happening?
Yep.
Oh man.
Well, and not a Somnium, but you said that there is a Fortnite reference in
In
here
the
too.
Fortnite, they do the Chug Jug song. They have Iris do the Chug Jug song, and I was just like, oh my god. Uchikoshi, what are you doing? Could not believe that.
Man be wildin'.
He's a wild dude. That's an understatement.
Speaking of wild and it was quite a thing. I don't know if you remember when the first Eye came out, but there was this big controversy because of Mizuki, like basically being supportive of LGBTQ people.
Right. Yes, I do remember that.
And then they're just like, what if in the sequel we just double down on that?
Oh, you didn't like that I was supportive of these kind of people? What if I'm supportive of all kinds of people who get hate like that?
Also, I'm going to punch all y'all in the face. You suck.
Yes. I was like, yes, very good.
Very good. Very, very good. I was like, well, I guess they took that criticism and said, you.
Yeah, essentially.
Like, well, this game is not for you then. It's funny.
It's very funny.
I also like the Iron Chef Somnium a lot.
Yeah, that one was good.
That was so good. That was so good.
Man.
I did not expect that.
No, me either. I was like, wow.
I also love that Amame, like every time she eats things, she's like, it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
And like Aiba's dishes just get more and more over the top and ridiculous.
Like to the point that she summons like the power of God.
Yeah.
It's like, what is happening?
Heavenly dessert.
It's so good.
It's like, wow.
That was so fun. Amazing.
Yeah, they really surprise you with some of these in terms of like how ridiculous they decide to go over the top with, and in terms of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like, it's fun and good in terms of like how they do it.
Including the fact that they like literally put Zero Escape into one of the Somniums, in the sense that like Uru in his Somnium, like Mizuki's like, oh yeah, I've seen people play these games, and like it talks about how he played them on his computer. He was like a big fan of these escape room games.
And like Mizuki herself talks about like, oh, I saw a friend play this one about a boat and everything, like literally referencing 999.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's the whole like there's the whole escape room Somnium and everything with his and all that. Where you basically have to do a bunch of puzzles and puzzle everything out like you would with like a Zero Escape game, essentially. Yep. And like we both had like long notes about like all of our solutions and how we were trying to figure things out. That you got to see at least mine of that.
Yeah. I don't know that you saw mine, but mine initially
like
started off as handwritten.
You only told me about yours because obviously you were further in the game than I was at that point.
Right. So
but you told me like, oh, I had a lot of notes about this, and I was like, huh, because I wasn't sure if you meant just like about the entire game or what. So like once I got to that one and showed you that, you were like, oh, this is what I was talking about. I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But it was fun because like just trying to piece everything out and figure every little puzzle out. But it's also fun when you go back to do that one and you have the answers, and Mizuki's just basically like, I'm just gonna take a wild guess, but I think it's this number. And I was like, how did you know that?
Amazing.
It's real good. I mean, in that section as well, like there's literally one of the solutions is 999. Which is like, I almost went and did it like before I'd even gotten like the third number. I was like, what is this 999? But I had to be safe to double check, and it was like, oh, okay, that was actually right.
Yep.
That's what it is. But yeah, that was a fun one.
That was really good. It was dark, but it was fun.
I was worried because I did that one like late at night and you weren't around. I was like, oh no, if I get stuck on this, I'm screwed. But luckily there's like things in there where like they will literally be like, all right, let's just spell this out for you so you can get it. Or you can just be like, have Aiba like, hey, can you just do this for me?
Yeah.
So like that makes it a little bit easier, but like it was fun trying to piece everything out and just be like, okay, how does this work? How do I gotta fit these in? Everything, blah 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 blah. And then eventually you get it, and it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's the answers. Here's the solutions.
Yay.
Da 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 da.
Um, I also enjoyed Kizana's with the like giant storybook.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
It was clever.
You had to do the shoe kicking.
Yeah. At first I didn't do it right at first because like
I didn't do it right at first either.
because like you do the first one and you beat her and or like Mizuki's like maybe we shouldn't beat her.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's let her win. And then she's like, hey, let's stay here and do this the whole time. Yay! And I was like, oh man, we gotta beat her.
Yep.
We gotta crush her.
That's what I did too. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, what have I done?
There's also little fun things you can do in each of like the Somniums that are like a little bonus thing, like
Mhm.
that are tied to an achievement essentially. Like there's the one in Ryuki's where you can dress up in all like the goofy outfits, put like the pumpkin head on and like the shoes and everything. So there's like little fun things that like that you can like find and do little hidden things that will reward you, and essentially they reward you with like there's eyeballs, which are currency that you can go buy like concept art and little fun art that are tied to the specific Somniums, and there's also like outfits you can buy for Aiba and Tama that you can use when you go back in and replay stuff. They'll be in all their specific outfits, and like it's a bunch of like random stuff of like, you know, here's like the specific characters' outfits.
Face helmet.
There's like helmets from like the Zero Escape games where you get like K helmet, Q's helmet.
Q helmet.
You can get a Monokuma head.
Yep.
Which is just also you're like, huh?
Yep.
And just a bunch of other stuff like that. It's real wild and fun, especially when you go back and do those and like they're dressed up like that and it's real goofy looking.
It's real good.
Mm-hmm.
You also have a new feature in this that like you can talk to them in like their room.
Yeah, they'll give you like advice.
You can change their clothes there. There's also like a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, it's real funny. They're like, here you go. You want to have a Tamagotchi that you can do every 20 minutes? It'll ask you a question and get characters from it. Sure.
Like in the middle of a really like important scene, things are going down. You're just like, hold on.
Beep, beep.
I gotta
hang
check
on, guys.
the
Hang on, guys.
Tamagotchi.
Gotta answer a question real quick. It's real goofy.
It is real goofy.
Like there is obviously a bunch of this goofy stuff in it because like it's an Ujikoshi game. There's always obviously going to be goofy stuff in these games.
Yeah.
But like the main story itself is very like serious and everything in the way that you would expect.
Yeah.
But it does have these good goofy moments to kind of offset everything, so it's not just like super serious all the time.
Grim dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have some of the comedic stuff in here, I think it would just be like, oh, this is really hard to get through.
Yeah.
Because it's dark.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's dark in the same way like the first game was dark.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, you have serious things happening, and then Date shows up and he's tiny head and big body. And you gotta laugh at that.
God. Those scenes were something else.
Yeah, they were so good. That's what they were. Made me laugh.
Oh, man.
Poor Date's lost so much of his life to amnesia.
Yeah.
So much.
Poor dude, losing more time.
Yeah. Which we had this conversation off of recording, but I saw a lot of people getting mad about Date's appearance. And I don't think either of us have the same issues as many people did.
No, like it makes sense, and especially with how they describe it, like, you know, he knows people know him by this face, so he just wears like a mask to allow people to see him with that face. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, people know who I am by this, so sure, why not? Why would I not just keep doing it this way?
Yeah, I mean,
just
like,
makes it less confusing for people.
Right, and I had some things that I typed out because I think about weird stuff a lot. I was like, this dude is probably gonna have like some crazy intense like body dysmorphia too, because like that's the face that he's seen for what, 6 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the face that he knows. That's the face that he's like established all these relationships with people with. And then like one day he just has a different face. And how do you like reintroduce yourself to people, like, oh, by the way, it's still me, but I just
Mm-hmm.
look entirely different. Like that'd probably be a pretty big mind.
Yeah. But also, I think the real answer to this is it makes it way easier for them to use this model because they've already made it and they don't have to make a new model for how Date actually looks.
Yeah. Well, and I mean they had that model, but
They did, but like it's just probably easier for them to use the one that they had for most of the game, the last game.
right. And even though there was a spoiler mode, um, you don't have two versions of the game where you have two versions of Date. Like
No, it's just that model
it's just
essentially.
that model. Like if you were to have a weird version where like he has his original appearance in the spoiler mode and like not in the, then you have two versions of the game, and you'd also have to hire DC Douglas for that one, and like there's just a lot of complications. I'm like, just suspend your disbelief for a moment, my friends.
Yeah.
This is a game where there is also a man who runs around in like a happy mask because he doesn't want people to see his face, and no one really questions it, honestly. Like no one's like, hey man, you've got this whole face mask thing going on, what's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
um and then he goes around telling people that he and Date have seen each other's buttholes. So
Yep.
yep,
Normal things.
just normal friend things. It's how they bonded.
Yeah. All friends just show each other their buttholes.
Well, I guess that means we're not friends because you haven't seen my butthole.
All right.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
see you later.
Sorry.
Gotta go.
um yeah, that was definitely a line that I was like, what? Excuse me? You did what now? Which, speaking of characters, I at first was not sure about Ryuki,
Right.
and I at first was not sure about Leon.
Yes, definitely.
And I ended up really liking both of them, even though there's still some questionable stuff with Leon that I'm like, but like in terms of how they were written, they're very likable characters by the end.
Right.
It's like, all right, all right, all right.
Because Leon, at first, you think he's just going to be like this weird dirtbag guy
Like
who's probably not going
scumbag.
to show up much. But then, like, by the end of it, you're like, yeah, this guy and his danger zone tattoo. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. He's just like, I lost my absolute mind when he's like, hey, let's do the dance together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess, spoiler alert, Kizuna becomes paralyzed after an explosion in a cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's sad that she can't dance anymore. And Leon's been like really supportive of her and trying to like make sure she knows that she's cared about and blah blah blah. And so like once they actually like get together and realize how they feel about each other, he's like, hey, I can help you dance again. And so they do the whole dance number and he does the dance for her, and it's fantastic. It's so good.
Real good.
It's real good. It's like, that's love. Get you a man. Like he's also just kind of like a himbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just big dumb energy, and I love it.
Not wrong. He likes to pick locks.
He's the master of unlocking.
He is the master of unlocking.
So good.
It's very true.
Yep. He's good.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess is interesting to talk about with like the stuff with Kizuna is that like they make her like a handicapped character halfway through the game.
Yes.
And it's not like she becomes like the butt of jokes or anything like that. Like they take a real like serious approach with like how she would handle that, losing, her legs and everything. Not like losing them, but like losing the ability to use her legs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
and like how that affects her mentally and everything, and how that affects like her relationships with other people, and like how she views people, and how like she thinks people are viewing her now because of all that.
Like she worries that she's just like being a burden on people now, and that
Hmm.
people are just like staying around because they feel sorry for her. And
Yeah.
I mean, like that would be a real type of thing that would happen with you. That like you have a mourning, like you're gonna mourn that for a long, long time, and you're gonna struggle with the fact that like, are you just with me right now because you feel bad?
Hmm.
Um, and so like Leon had to essentially prove to her that like, no, that's not the case. Like I'm genuinely here because I care about you.
Yeah.
Then he had his like big, stupid, dumb letter that was hilarious. He's just like, well, I don't really want to read this, but here we go. And reads like sixth grade love letter. It's fantastic.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. um, yeah, I just thought he was gonna be an absolute scumbag, and he's not a scumbag, other than the fact that like she's way younger than him, but and also just kind of like didn't take no for an answer to begin with. That was a little problematic, but
I guess there's only a 4-year difference between them.
yeah, because he's 22, right?
Yeah,
And she's
when they first
18.
meet. Not terrible. Could
Not
be way
terrible.
worse.
It could be worse. It could be worse. It's not
He
like
just doesn't look like he's a 22-year-old.
he does not. It's not like Date's going after her and she's 18. Like that
Yeah.
would be very problematic.
Yeah, definitely.
So like it's fine.
Hmm.
But yeah, he does. He's very persistent, and that is a thing. And I can get past it just because like I like their story quite a lot. That
Hmm.
like it moves past him just being like annoying and persistent about wanting to date her slash marry her. um, that like he genuinely becomes like somebody who cares about her rather than just like being infatuated with her.
Right, yeah.
Which is great. Um, and then there's Ryuki, who, as I mentioned earlier, is not okay.
No.
He's very much not okay.
He's going through some stuff.
He's got some existing trauma already from 6 years prior to the 6 years ago events,
Hmm.
when his brother died.
Hmm.
Also, his parents died
Hmm.
before that, so he has no family. Um, and amazingly enough, his brother died by like getting half of his body squished.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, previewing what you're gonna be dealing with here, buddy. Um, but yeah, then he goes through like all the serial killing things, and he's already not in a good mindset. He's a little unstable to begin with. And then things just go off the rails for him.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Real bad. Like there's a lot of scenes like even like in the past stuff, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
of like that seem like we're like he's seeing weird things that are off, and things that don't make a whole lot of sense and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then like once you see him like later on in like the Mizuki route, like he just seems completely off the rails.
And I mean, they do talk about how like he has hallucinations.
Hmm.
Um, and like there are times that he's just kind of like walking around like lucid and like seeing things, and you're like,
Or just like we'll be standing somewhere for hours,
yep,
not moving, and because he something happened to him and he just like stays there.
yep.
Um, Eventually, obviously, there is a reason for all that, but like, yeah, before you understand the reasoning for everything, it's just like, man, this guy is going through some stuff. And also, real big fan of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, he is.
Real big fan.
Real big fan. Must be hero here.
He can be your hero, baby.
Oh my
He
god.
can kiss away the pain.
Oh my god. Um,
Or would you rather he be a? He could say he's a hero that could save us.
I mean, he does
He's not
say
going
he's
to
a
stand there
hero.
and wait.
He says he is.
He's going to hold on to the wings of the hero.
Oh my
Watch them as they
god.
all fly away.
Oh my god. Is it the one-winged angel that he's gonna hold on to?
Yes.
Perfect. Um, yeah, so he's he's not okay, and then he gets like the TC purge situation, and it's like, oh, now you're really not okay.
Yeah. So TCP purge is essentially a virus that infects people and makes them see things that are not real, gives them like a bunch of hallucinations, really messes with their brains in sort of ways where like I said, they basically see things that are not happening, and they'll do a lot of weird and not normal like things that they usually wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically also led to a lot of like people committing suicide and all that sort of stuff because they're just like jumping off buildings because of why not and everything.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting that like half of this game's subplot involves a virus that could lead into a pandemic.
Yep.
Which I was like,
Mm.
interesting.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, yeah, TC purge is quite a thing. And so like I've read several things that were saying like if you go through Ryuki's story, like you're actually experiencing some things in like the order that like he's how do I explain this? Um his interpretation of events as you're going through it is the same as what the player's initial assumption is because he's just going through some I don't know if that's exactly true. Like I said, I have to go back and replay it, but
Right.
there are moments where he thinks that he's 6 years in the past, like the Ferris wheel bit where he's like he's in the number 2 car, he's going to come down and there's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 years ago he was in the number 2 car and he did come down and Ryuki took him to the hospital.
Yeah, because there's a very obvious point in the game where like he gets infected.
Yep.
So obviously that would be the things that would like start to make his brain think things are different than what they actually are.
Ooh, and he gets crazy eyes at one point. And I was like, "Oh, buddy,
Yeah.
you are not okay."
Yeah.
Oh boy,
Oofa doofa.
I'm worried about him.
Yep.
And I guess we've been kind of like dancing around it. There are 2 Mizukis.
Yeah, that was interesting because like you meet a girl who's like dressed in like raggedy cloaks. Essentially, she has like a mask glued on her face, allegedly.
NASA glue.
Yeah, and like you don't know who it is because like they
and
don't
a voice
really
changer.
And a voice changer. So like you don't really know who it is, and like you kind of don't really get a whole idea of like who it is because like they keep showing up randomly to help you, but also they shot at you at one point in the stadium, so you're kind of just like, I don't know who this person is.
Are you trying to help or are you trying to hurt? Who are you? What side are you on?
Like you eventually learn that they were like part of the human experiments that the Chikara had been doing on people. Which you learned that like Mizuki herself was a part of that. That's why she has like the superhuman strength and everything. Which like, yeah, sure, that makes sense.
Makes way more sense than the initial explanation, which was like there was a gene that ran in her family that like hopped generations.
Yeah.
This makes way more sense.
Yeah. So you learn all of that and everything, but like they don't really go into like who she really is other than that. So you're kind of just like left out in the open. And then eventually like once the mask breaks and you see it's also a Mizuki and you're just like, huh?
She's got the same scooter and same weapon. And at one point, I love that Mizuki Date is like, hey, that's my scooter. She's like, I got it online.
I got it online. Don't worry about it. They had a sale.
Yep. The exact same scooter as you. Yep. On sale.
But yeah, they eventually like just learned to like, or you learned that this Mizuki had been like genetically altered. Obviously, she was part of these experiments, and the experiments they did on her like made it so like she has a lot of like heart conditions now, but she also has like what is the other stuff she has?
She's blind in one eye.
Blind in one eye. So like yeah, she has a lot of like bad side effects from all the human genome experimentation and everything, and like Mizuki Date was basically kind of taken from that, and she became kind of like the more perfected version of what older Mizuki was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also learned that like older Mizuki at one point lived with Kizuna.
Yep.
Because like no one would adopt her because she had all of these defects essentially, and then the boss kept talking about how she had like an adopted daughter and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you eventually learn like, oh, this is the adopted daughter.
Mizuki Kuranushi? Is that her name? We'll just call her Mizuki K.
Mizuki K.
Or BB.
Or
That's what
BB, yeah.
They call her BB.
BB Tan.
BB.
But yeah, like it's all just like this huge thing. You're just like, what is happening? What? And like it basically ties in a lot of things that make sense as well. Because like in the past, they talk about how like Aiba isn't with Date anymore because the boss sent her on this like secret mission, and then you learned that like Aiba's with this version of Mizuki, and they've been working on this case as well in secret. But also you learn that like some of these portions where you've been playing as Mizuki you've been playing as this version of Mizuki and not the actual Mizuki you think you're playing as.
Right, you've been playing as BB.
Yeah, so it's just like this whole wild set of circumstances that you're just like, my brain is broken. What is happening?
And like her heart condition got worse at one point because Ryuki betrays Date, and he shoots her with a stun gun basically.
Yeah.
Poor gal. I know how it is to have a heart condition.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the whole thing of like Ryuki's like basically held hostage because the terror is like, hey, if you don't do my bidding, I'm just going to explode Tama. She has a self-destruct now.
And that was also the time when like Kizuna had been kidnapped.
Yes.
So it was basically like, oh, I'll explode Tama, and also like I'll probably just get rid of Kizuna as well. Like,
yep.
You better do what I say.
He's like,
boy.
Wait a minute.
He's like, I don't want to, but I gotta.
Which ends up with Date getting rubbled.
Yeah.
And Ryuki is very, very sad about that.
Because he basically thinks he let Date die.
Yeah, he's like, I led Date to his death.
And that's why he starts like drinking heavily, and that's why he like, when you supposedly see him 6 years later, he's just like a huge mess, like even more of a mess than normal.
Yeah, he's like turbo mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. And so like the whole thing with like Jin and Uru like being
the same but not the same.
Same but not the same, and fused and all kinds of things like that. That was wild. And
yeah. So like the first victim you meet is this guy named Jin Furei. He's like this like tech guy, big IT guy, whatever.
He's never seen in public though.
Never seen in public, but like he's been chopped in half and killed essentially, and at least like these weird vaporwave videos that are supposedly like mind controlling people and leading them to like getting kidnapped and all this sort of stuff, which is very weird and wild per se. But like you eventually learned that like also Chikara the bad doctor and Tokiko the nice nice.
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 I thought you were saying nice at first. So I was like, she's not nice.
No, the nice leader, they had a baby together, but like Chikara didn't want her to have it, but she secretly had it, and then essentially the kid was kind of like had like, you know, tumors on the right side of his body, so they're like, let's just take some of this guy and we'll just swap organs out and make our kid be perfect. Yay.
Except for we're only gonna switch out half of his face because he got a % mark on his face, and so he just looks like a weirdo.
Yeah. So they found this kid from Kizuna's dad's orphanage.
Yep.
They basically kidnapped him because he had like a similar DNA match to Jin, and his name was Uru. Whatever his last name was.
Somizuki?
Huh?
Somizuki.
Okay, thank you. I thought you meant Mizuki. I was like, what?
No, Somizuki is his name.
Uwu? What if his name was Uwu and he just did the Uwu face all the time?
also murdered people.
Yeah. So like they basically literally cage this dude up and hide him under like under Jakara's research establishment, and that's where they basically just like take his organs and plop them into Jin and everything, and like this kid just basically goes insane and starts thinking like he desires Tokiko's love because he thinks like that's his actual mom now.
Yep.
And just like starts just going insane and saying he really gets into the beliefs of Knights as well, like thinking like, oh, this world is a simulation. I'm going to achieve enlightenment if I do these certain things. And eventually he's like, okay, well now I got to kill these people. I got to kill Jin because he took all my stuff. He took my body. I'm gonna kill Chikara because that guy sucks and I hate him and I want him to die.
I mean, that's
and
fair.
then he kills Komeiji basically because
Komeiji tried to blackmail him.
Komeiji tried to blackmail him by taking a body.
Yes.
And that's why he had to die.
Yep.
And then also Uru meets what's her face? You know, what's her face?
What's her face?
Amame.
Yes.
Because he finds her when like he's trying to get rid of Komeiji's body, and basically he threatens her, but also he's like, oh, this is my enlightenment gal. She's the light of my life.
The woman of the future.
The woman of the future.
I forget what he actually said. What he actually like. He like the woman of my destiny or something like that.
Yeah, something like that
is how he words it. He basically just fixates on Amame.
He fixates on her, and she also fixates on him because like, oh, you killed my dad. I hate your guts. I want you to die.
Yep.
So like eventually she finds out like where he is, and like, or he calls out to her and is like, hey, join me in this plot. We're gonna do this, and this. And she's like, no, ain't happening. I'm going to kill you now.
Wrench to the head.
And then she cuts his body in half because like of the body cutters were down there where his caged area was under the Horodori Institute. And she's like, Phoop, does that. But also like Tokiko sees her do that. That's how she gets blackmailed into doing Tokiko's bidding, which is just like Tokiko wants to chop herself in half and be like, I will escape the simulation. Put my body here. And it's just like, what?
Yep.
Confusing. So that's why, like, you know, Amame has like two different Somniums, and like, there's definitely in the quiz show, you definitely see like the scene where like, you know, she cuts Uru in half because like the blood splatter happens and everything.
Yep.
But like out of context, you don't know what that means or anything.
Nope.
But eventually you get to like the final Somnium, which is the one where you have to like present evidence to her and like tell her exactly what's happening, and eventually she'll be like, yeah, this is exactly what happened. Like I killed this guy, but like you would do the same thing if you saw him and he killed your father. Like him, he deserved what was happening to him.
Also, I hid the body in the freezer with Gin.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Which is interesting, like afterwards, like, you know, once you have like the epilogue stuff, like there's definitely people who will like talk about like her and be like, yeah, I don't think she did anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like she shouldn't have gotten in trouble for that. Like she did the right thing. She stopped this mass murderer from, you know, wreaking havoc on this town and everything.
Yep. But also she wasn't able to initially stop his nirvanA initiative idea, so they have to figure out like, how do we do that?
Yeah, so like
there's a giant rocket.
They keep talking about like the nirvanA initiative, and like it ties into those vaporwave videos as well. And like essentially the nirvanA initiative is like they're going to load up a rocket full of the TC purge virus and explode it in the atmosphere, so it basically falls down on Tokyo and infects everyone with this virus, so they'll all be enlightened and free of the simulation and everything.
Yep.
And there's definitely a lot of people that are still within like Knights and like other like weird mercenaries that he's like hired to like help him try to push this plan forward, and also just people who've been infected with the TC purge virus that he's using to help him do this. And they basically have to stop a rocket from being shot out of the middle of the soccer pitch at the stadium.
Yep. Where you start the game.
It's something. It's real wild.
It is wild.
And there's just like all of these scenes where like you have to fight through all these dudes and they keep getting back up because they're basically infected and they have no like understanding of like, you know, their pain receptors or anything. They're just like, let's keep going.
He gave them like insulated clothes too, so the stun bullets don't work as well.
Yeah. So it's just all of that, and then like you have to keep trying to fight through them and fight through them and fight through them. And then eventually, like, your pals show up in the back of an army jeep.
Kizuna gets a rail gun.
Or she gets a Gatling gun.
Oh, Gatling gun, sorry.
Which is really good. She's just sitting there in her wheelchair with a Gatling gun. It's like, eat lead, mother.
It's so good.
So good.
While Iris is just back there cheering her on.
And Ota and his mullet is driving this thing around.
Yeah, have we not mentioned the fact that Oda has a mullet?
It's bad, but also like
bad.
He's a dumb character, so it fits him having just a terrible hairstyle.
I love Ota, and I also am just like, Ota, why?
Yeah.
Iris's new outfit is also terrible.
It's something.
And I love that her hair and Mizuki's hair and Amame's hair just like glitch out a lot.
Yeah.
Go all over the place. Also, Moma is just kind of like, oh my god, I've had like a sexual awakening here while watching Kizuna with the Gatling gun. He's just like, whoa.
Like, they get basically all the other like side characters together to come help Mizuki, Bibi, Ryuki, and Date.
Yep.
And they basically go to Mame and they're just like, hey, or they go to Moma. And they're like, hey, can you help us out? He's like, I got some stuff for you guys. Don't worry. Here's some guns. Here's this truck.
I love that, like, at one point, you're talking to him. He's like, oh, yeah, you know, I got everything together. And then when we had to figure out who to drive, it's like, I know a guy. It's like, and you picked Ota?
He did well.
He did great. Ota did great. It was just funny that he's just like, I know a guy. It's like, you run a Yakuza family, and the person you picked to drive this military vehicle is Ota.
I like the idea of them just, like, talking while they're, like, at the agency waiting for Iris, because they would do that. It's just like somehow the idea of him driving really well came up. And he's like, I'm gonna make a mental note of that.
Right.
Just in case I need this one day.
So good. It's so good.
It's real wild.
Yep.
But yeah, like, you eventually are able to stop it because like you're able to shoot your scooter up into the air and blow it up. Which is real wild. And then everyone thinks Ryuki dies, but he got like shot in the side. I was just like, this guy isn't dead.
Yeah, he's not dead.
He's fine.
Date was real sad about it, though.
Yeah. He's real sad at the end as well, but he gets to be a cat face and hang on Iris's mom.
Wow. Yeah, the cat face Date is amazing.
It's real funny.
It's real funny. And both Mizuki's and Aiba are like, can we murder him? We would like to murder him right now.
But like, yeah, at the end they're able to like they bring you Ryuki in a box. And he's like, hey, what's up?
It was hard to breathe in there.
Also, I'm not entirely healed, but I'm good.
Nope.
Hello.
I love that Tom is like, he says something like, I'm all right. And Tom's like, no, I have you on a lot of painkillers right now.
Yeah, you are doped up to You are not okay.
You are not okay.
But then we get that great song and dance afterwards as well with everyone.
We get the group.
Because it's an I game, so you get a dance number to end the game with the true ending.
Everybody does the half to whole dance.
It's real good.
It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. We got the double Mizuki's dancing and singing about boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
We got everybody in there. It's very good.
It's real good.
I love that. I love that that's how we end these things.
Oh, man.
So I guess, is it time to talk about the Nile number?
Yeah,
ending?
I think so.
This ending mind me.
It's something. Because you, during that epilogue sequence, you get a number from Tokiko.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically like, here's this number.
Yeah, Mama tells you to go to the knife building. And you get this number from Tokiko, and you told me where to put it because I couldn't remember where to put it.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember that question. I was like, this has to come back at some point.
Yep.
So eventually I learned that was the thing. I was like, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Because there's a question she tells you like very early in the game. She's like, are you a Freyer?
Yep.
And you're just like, no. She's like, oh, whatever. But if you go back and give her this number afterwards, it basically plays into the whole like idea like, oh, this is a simulation world. Because like everything glitches out and you get like the whole thing of Ryuki speaking gibberish, Japanese gibberish or whatever. And then like the screen resets and you see like the bodyguards like T-posing
with no
melt
face.
with no face, melting into the ground. Tokiko's like melted through the desk, and then you're able to walk around, and you're able to like have there's like no clip is enabled, so you can just break out of the room you're in and see just like it's just obviously it's a room because that's how game development works.
Yep.
And then you get to go to Tokiko, who's like way out in the distance, and like she tells you like, oh hey, by the way, you know everything, so like do you want to keep this knowledge for Ryuki to know and everything? And like you can push forward and be like, yeah, of course. And essentially it changes the whole events of like the next 6 years where like, you know, the HB killings get solved very quickly. Everyone like nothing bad happens to any of the characters.
Ryuki gets a promotion.
Yeah,
He's
like
second in command.
None of the characters that had bad things happen to them have bad things happen to them anymore. Like everyone's real happy. But like there's this whole thing of Ryuki being like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do.
And he meets with the Mizukis and like, didn't something happen here?
Yeah, like they have knowledge
something's
of the
wrong.
other timeline. And it's just like it's an interesting idea or an interesting take on the whole like super good ending.
Yeah.
Because you get that super good ending, but it's one that like you feel like this isn't right.
Yeah, you feel super uncomfortable by it.
This is not good.
And it's great because like they are in a simulation because they're in a video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Uchikoshi is like, by the way, we're gonna break this by showing you like you can go out of this room. This is a video game. None of this is real. It's like you were just messing with my brain, sir.
It's one of the things we talked about like last night about like, you know, the ending of Danganronpa V3 tried to do this as well, but like it doesn't do it nearly as well because like it's very insulting to the player essentially for like, you know, getting invested in those games and everything, and then just like, well, why would you do that? That's dumb. You're dumb for liking these games. They're fake. That's stupid. And just doesn't really do that entire like that idea of that ending well in really any regard whatsoever. But I feel like this does it in a much better way because it leaves you. It's not like explicitly telling you like, hey, everything in this game is fake.
Yep.
It's giving you the option to be like, okay, which of these endings do you want? Which of these endings is the real ending for you? You know, it gives you that choice and everything, and also gives you like that little subtlety and like that hint of like, you know, what else could be different about this? What else could be? Where else could you go with this? Like, it's not just like blatantly hitting you over the head with like fake, 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 fake. It just gives you more of like a little opening, a little window to being like, what else we got open here for you? What else do you want to think about with this? But I think it just works so much better than that Danganronpa V3 ending.
No, I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. I was so mad about that ending, and this one did it so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find, because I sent it to you and now I can't find it again. The translation of the like Mojibake thing that he says.
I think you said that on Discord.
Did I send it on Discord?
I think you did.
That would probably help me a lot.
Yeah.
Because if it's in our text messages, it's gone forever.
Yeah, that's going to be way back.
Yep. Here we go. I found it. Okay. So he's speaking in the Mojibake, which is basically like an encoding thing where the symbols are all gobbledygooked, like messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you figure out a way to like decode it and translate it, according to this website, what he says is break it, fray it, achieve moksha. This is a fictional illusory world. Awaken everyone. It is time for revolution. Open the gate of truth. Who am I? Where is this? What time is it? Who are you? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Break this virtual space and liberate me from this false world. Help me, help me, help me.
And I guess another thing that like helps with that secret ending is that like they very clearly established you, the player, as like a character within this game.
Yes.
Like you are the Freyer.
And Mama even talks to you as the Freyer when she's in the like mode.
Yeah, like right before I think she tells you about like the way the timelines are the way the timelines actually are.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's talking to the player when that's happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When she goes out of the trance, she's like, "Who was I talking to? What was going on?"
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh, I see."
Because they definitely mentioned the Freyer quite a few times, and it was like I think at like near the end, I was just like, either this is like Ryuki or this is supposed to be us.
Yep.
And it's very clearly just like they're very clearly addressing the player,
Yes.
which is another, I think, wild thing to do, and just like to make you have like, oh, we have two protagonists, but also you're a part of this as well. We're gonna directly address you at times.
Which Uchikoshi tried to do in the secret ending of VLR.
Yes.
But like this way he actually like pulled it off in a way that I think worked better.
I agree.
God, I'm just like so mind blown by that text and what he's actually saying.
Yeah.
It's so messed up.
I think the one thing that you like, obviously, you went through the secret ending and you were like, well, this was something.
Uh-huh.
This was real messed up. And then you get the unlock for when you do the secret ending, which is something I guess I was kind of expecting at some point, but also not expecting in this way whatsoever.
You knew that there was something that was big enough that I freaked the heck out.
Yes, because like I remember you freaking out, then being like afterwards, like once I did the secret ending, I was like, I don't really feel like that was big enough for her to be like, oh my god, this is what is happening. Oh, the way you were. And then like I got the little pop-up thing that was like, I forget what the exact text of it is, but it's like
third class cabin.
Yeah, third class cabin. And I was just like, no way. And you unlock it for 999 eyeballs.
Uh-huh.
And you basically do the beginning and the beginning escape room from 999 as Aiba.
Yep. Instead of Junpei.
And it's recreated in 3D as a Somnium, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, holy crap.
Like,
ooh, man, wow.
Like 90% of the text in that is just copy paste from Junpei.
And they even like there's some of like the CGs from like the console 999 is thrown in here as well. But like they recreated that first escape room all in like 3D, which is new.
Yep.
Which was something. But yeah, that was man.
Oh man, I lost my mind when that came up. I was like, what is this? Oh man. It was great because I already knew how to solve it. I was like, oh, this is easy.
But like they even like gives you the bracelet afterwards so you can use on the characters as well, and like
for 5 eyeballs.
Tama is like, oh, I should be Lotus's number instead of this number.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
That tracks.
Yep. But man, I was not expecting them to just do the full on just like, oh, we're just gonna recreate the beginning of 999 for you.
Yep.
Just like, wow.
Man.
It's real cool.
It's really cool.
Like that's a really good Easter egg.
I agree. And a lot of effort went into that Easter egg.
Yeah. It certainly seems like it, for sure.
Like all the sound effects are the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
But also they had to do work because they had to recreate that entire like environment in 3D for this game specifically.
Right. And figure out like how are we going to make sure that we place the items in a way that it makes sense, because like the other thing was just like pictures.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow.
It's wild.
So good. At least Aiba's got a short dress, so she's not going to have like the wet pants issue that Junpei has. It always upset me that I was thinking about the whole time. Like his pants are rolled up like he's got like shorter pants on.
Got floodwaters on.
Kind of. They're like right below the knee. But even still, he's standing in like a ton of water. And so it's like that whole time this man's going to be running around with wet jeans at the bottom. Like, oh God, that's miserable.
Well, probably everyone's also just walking around with like wet feet and pants and whatnot.
Yeah, the wet feet I didn't think about. But like the jeans in particular.
They get out of that escape room, they're sloshing around.
Wet jeans is like the worst thing in the entire world.
You just feel the squishiness in the shoes when you're walking around.
No, I hate that idea. I would just go barefoot at that point.
Probably not a bad idea.
Probably die because something escape room happens, and it's like, well,
you need shoes on.
There's a hazard here.
Oh man. But yeah, I had you walk me through that puzzle because I have obviously not played 999 with puzzles before, so and obviously I knew you would be like, okay, you do this, and this, and you're done.
Yeah,
because it's you.
We had it done in like what maybe 3 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was real quick.
I was like, hey, you need to go here. You need to pick up this. Here's the codes. All
Yeah.
right. Put these numbers in. The end.
It's
I've
real cool.
I've done that puzzle enough. I know what's up.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, really cool.
It is really cool. It made me happy. Now I just want to see 999 recreated like that.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah. Be wild.
Mm-hmm.
This game was good.
Yeah.
I was real bummed when I beat it because it was like, oh, now it's over.
I was kind of surprised there was not as many like branching paths as there was in like the first game.
Yeah.
Like I think it makes sense obviously in the way they present this, but like, you know, once you go through like the first half of the game, you're like you get one and I was just like, this seems weird. Where's all the branching stuff?
Yeah, you don't get another one. Like you have the Leon branch. What other branches do you have?
There's the
There's obviously the lockout you get at one point.
lockout, but that's not really necessarily like a
Not
branch.
branch.
Um
Oh, you have the branch at BB's Somnium.
yes. So those it's those two, and then you have the Komiji branch in Ryuki's side of the game.
Yes.
So like relatively speaking, especially for a Uchikoshi game, not a whole lot of like branching paths and all that sort of stuff, but like it didn't necessarily need it per se.
No.
Especially if you're going to do like the whole with the flow chart in general, like I think that would make it more confusing.
Right.
If you went and did that way. But yeah, this was a wild game.
It was a wild game. It was really good. I'm glad that I got to go back into this universe because I was not expecting it to get a sequel.
Yeah.
And now I wonder if they're gonna do a third game.
I'd hope so. That'd be fun. Remake VLR in the third game.
Yeah. That'd be great.
I do have some trivia for you if you would like to
I
hear.
love trivia.
In the game's announcement trailer, Mizuki is seen playing on a portable console, which holds various significance. The console itself seems reminiscent of either a PlayStation Vita or a Nintendo Switch. The console is adorned with the Adora Rabbit sticker. Adora Rabbit is Mizuki's favorite mascot from her time in I. The game Mizuki is seen playing is the HD remake of Zero Escape 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. And then Mizuki plays her game atop the Okira Fishery Cold Storage Warehouse. According to Uchikoshi, he finished writing the game's entire scenario by November, presumably 2020, 8 months prior to the game's announcement.
Wow.
nirvanA Initiative contains almost no spoilers to the events of I, the Somnium Files, which he exclaims is due to a little gimmick in the game.
A little gimmick.
On January 3rd, 2020, 1.5 years before nirvanA Initiative was revealed, Uchikoshi asked on Twitter if fans would be interested in playing a sequel to the original I. The tweet obtained nearly 500 likes, more than 100 retweets, and over 100 replies with an overabundant request for a sequel. This tweet most likely factored heavily into nirvanA Initiative getting greenlit into production. There's DLC costumes, obviously, where you can dress up as a hot dog.
Yep.
There's a t-shirt that says Atame on it.
Yeah,
based off of Date's Atame route.
Yeah, and you can actually do that with Ryuki too.
There's a t-shirt where you have them, Tama and Aiba in with a galaxy background, which is basically the cat galaxy meme.
Yep.
And then there's also a t-shirt with Date, Boss, Pewter, and Kagami yelling very loudly, which is the reaction guys meme. Just real funny.
She just likes memes.
The genetic scientists working at Horodori Institute of Genetics wearing the red hazmat suits are actually reusing a model from Virtue's Last Reward.
Yes, that is correct.
The models are nearly the same, with the model being higher quality with a logo for Horodori's Institute adorning the left chest area and their left forearm. Which, again, interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, there you go. There's some fun trivia.
Fun trivia. I love trivia.
Well, you would like this game because there's a lot of trivia in it.
There's a lot of trivia. It's a good game.
Yes. I would be definitely down to see another one of these games, or also whatever Uchikoshi does, because like he just does good stuff. Like
he does good stuff.
this game, I think as well, just like really shows off like how good he is at like creating really interesting and well-defined characters. Like he's really good at character writing,
Mm-hmm.
and just making really fun mysteries.
Yeah. Like really, really good at it. There's a reason why 999 is like one of my favorite games. And we mentioned um when I came out, like that was definitely his like best work to date
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like how he structured it, how he wrote it in general. Like it was very, very good. And he continues to do very good things. And also just think about like how do I use like game mechanics and the story ideas to mess with people.
Yeah.
And he does, and it was successful. And I was mind blown at a few points. I was like, what? What?
What?
What? Maxwell also said, what? He's coming down.
He went meow.
Hey, buddy. Don't step on Jared. Don't step on Jared.
Ow! I'm in pain. Oh no, so hurt. Oh, you got me, Maxwell.
Little 8-pound cat stepping on you. Gonna suffer. Anyway, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Then we're done.
And we're done. So yeah, that's the Somnium Files nirvanA Initiative. It's good.
He's good.
It's good.
He's good.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared to Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from AnneLadium, go to AnneLadium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, and a whole wealth of bonus content as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we'll have something new for you.
Yep. And eventually I'm going to be in a new location.
Exactly. Wilden.
Wilden. Getting out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.